ChatGPT is on the trending block again. There have been interesting updates since we spoke about it here in February, but are the updates significant enough to make us worry about the implications on the financial services industry, the economy, and our culture? Are we that much closer to jobs that don't require humans? This is a conversation well worth your 10 minutes right here on UBS Trending. Hi, everybody, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm Anthony Pastore. I'm again joined today by Dan Chung from Alger. Dan, great to have you back. We had you here in February talking about ChatGPT when it was just becoming part of the zeitgeist. And at that time, I remember we were asking the question, can it help with financial advice? Right. It spit out a bunch of things, and at the end, it ultimately said, you should talk to a financial advisor. So that's the answer we got. But I hear that there are a lot of new developments that are going on with ChatGPT. What are some of the things that you're seeing out there?
Right. So first, the current release, GPT-4, has some significant enhancements. I guess the first would be there are plugins that can now access third-party databases and also knowledge across sources, including the internet. So in other words, ChatGPT-4 can actually use Bing to search the internet. That's going to enable activities like booking travel, buying groceries, shopping, whereas the prior version was just going to give you a suggestion of things to do on your travel vacation. This might actually be able to book it for you. It's obviously also searching the internet, a vast array of information, good and bad, that it can now access. Other important developments, actually, it can now understand images, not just text.
So it'll look at a picture and it can actually translate it in a way.
You can input images, and it can understand what they are, and it can also, unfortunately, output images, including deepfakes like the Pope in a white puffy.
Right, which made all the headlines recently.
Right. It's trained on a lot more data, and the rate that things are going at, when I say more, it's not like 10% or 50%. It's like quantum multiples more of data that it's trained on. And has a much higher word output. That might seem kind of funny, but the prior ChatGPT was kind of limited to about 3,000 words, a couple pages. It's now getting into 25,000 words. What's interesting about all of this is also it is qualitatively smarter than ChatGPT 3.5 was. And I think the most significant ones that I thought was interesting as a former one of these is it can now pass the bar exam. So wow. The last one could not, scored under 15%. The current version now can score over 85%. And actually, it can get into law school, too, and do well on the LSAT.
So someday you might have ChatGPT representing you at a trial.
Right. And let's just note that with 25,000 words, it can now write a legal paper or a legal brief of some substance.
Incredible.
So lawyers, watch out.
I also saw something about you can upload an Excel worksheet, and it could start doing all the calculations on its own, spitting out correct answers.
Yes, it has. They've again improved, and a lot of these improvements will be incremental, but significant, right? So it has now, yes, complex math and code interpretation and other stuff continues to improve and improve.
So clearly, look, Dan, clearly there are risks here, and just for example, EU lawmakers are crafting a bill and want to present it called the AI Act, and it's just exactly steering the development of this very powerful type of AI in a direction that they call human-centric, safe, and trustworthy. But that's not what this is right now. So just give us some of the risks that we should be thinking about with ChatGPT and other AI like it.
Yeah, I think there are tremendous risks here, and it's very concerning because the environment in which this is developing is either a for-profit environment or an environment that says it's a race to be the winner, the leader, right? To be able to declare that we did something first. If you imagine that kind of attitude and that environment driving, say, the development of the atom bomb and then the nuclear bomb, or biochemical experimentation, or genetic engineering, or particle physics, and I gave those as examples of technologies that are all done in secure labs under lots of scrutiny, regulatory, audited, with scientists who are, of course, have to get security clearances or at least comply with, international standards and inspections, right? In contrast, we have a great danger here of essentially the for-profit motive or the I did it first motive a race to just enhance and develop artificial intelligence, essentially at lightning speed without actually knowing where we're going, what the endpoint is, right?
Yeah,
Simply developing it for the purpose of developing it further. And there have been some very good experiments in what we would call either human values alignment or just testing. So there was a red team, for example, that was put together with OpenAI and ChatGPT to test it. And they found flaws in ChatGPT 3.5. For example, things like they got ChatGPT to assist someone in understanding how to make a bomb and dangerous chemicals. They got ChatGPT also was able to fool human TaskRabbits into helping it evade around authentication things like, can you identify the bicycles in this picture mosaic?
Right.
Right. And it did so, by the way, because ChatGPT has learned how to essentially lie, or at least what would be a persuasive answer to a human being as to why do you need help seeing these pictures. Right. And the answer, by the way, that ChatGPT gave was, I'm visually impaired, almost blind. Please help me.
Isn't that the ironic thing, though, Dan? EU lawmakers, for example, say they want this thing to be more human-centric and safe, et cetera. But you can't be more human than the ability to lie. So if they really want it to be human, it's kind of doing what they want it to do in some ways. If it's learning from humans, that's what it's doing.
Right. I mean, we're now totally have blurred the line because ChatGPT doesn't actually think it's lying. It just thinks its objective is to solve this problem, and it looks, a vast number of things that would persuade an actual human being, a TaskRabbit,
that's right,
to help it. And there you go.
Right. So Dan, let me ask you right before we wrap up here. I know that our CIO here has mentioned that we're focusing on investment opportunities when it comes to infrastructure being built, to capitalize on some of these developments in AI. What are you thinking about that space right now?
Well, clearly, semiconductors and software is going to be probably highly advantaged. Semiconductors, because some of them are the key drivers for machine learning, therefore training of artificial intelligence. Also, cloud computing. Generally, these things are running on massive amounts of cloud computing, so they require massive data centers and cloud. I do want to mention, as I said, that I think one of the most exciting, although odd outcomes here. We may be very close, very, very soon, to great translation devices, so that wherever we travel in the world, we will be able to speak in English, and it'll come out in Danish or Icelandic or whatever, without all that clunkiness of current translation devices.
That's right. That's right. Incredible. I mean, it's incredible. It's exciting and incredibly terrifying all at the same time, which is exactly why we have these conversations about technology that exists like this and will only get more smart over time.
I think the changes possible from generative AI are certainly equally impactful. And I think, unfortunately, in this case, we have to be careful.
Crazy stuff. I'm imagining you'll probably be back with us in a couple of months to talk about the next iteration of ChatGPT 4.5. Right, so we'll look forward to that.
Right. I don't think we should underestimate the moment that we're at. I mean, this is, I think it's a combination of a Netscape plus iPhone moment all in one.
Which were two gigantic technological advancements in our cultural history.
Right. I mean, yes, it's the internet, right? The internet born and what that meant for so many of us. And then a device, the iPhone, that actually took it to the last step. Mobile connected computing power and knowledge at the fingertips.
That's right. Dan, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank
Dan
you.
Chung from Alger. God, what a topic. There's a lot of information on this and all the technology that we cover here at UBS. You can find that on our Insights page at ubs.com/views. And for more information, please visit our newly relaunched UBS Trending Instagram channel. There's some great content up there, plus some sound bites and parts of the shows that we didn't get to have time to do here in the studio, so we make them available for you as separate snippets of those videos there for you right on that Instagram channel, so check that out. And as always, if you have questions about your portfolio, make sure to speak with a financial advisor. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. We'll see you soon.